What's up, King? Welcome to the GigaCast.
You said you had some exciting new things to reveal, huh? A couple of reveals.
Yeah. Of course, anyone that's read The Androgen Diet, then you know my take on dopamine and how huge it is. There is ways people can supplement to increase their dopamine. My paradigm with that is, okay, dopamine, it can be released and spiked by tons of shit, especially nowadays that we have the internet, instant gratification, instant messaging, everything's instant, convenient, made to spike your dopamine and get you that reward so you go right back to it. This is Mucuna Pruriens, and this is 400 milligrams, which is 15% L-Dopa, which is 60 milligrams per capsule. What they recommend on this is actually having 6 capsules before bed, and they also say it secretes HGH secretion, which is like, okay, if you're going to bed on an empty stomach, then you will secrete HGH regardless to some degree.
That's how they get you.
So yeah, but I knew that I've been wanting to try some Mucuna Pruriens because one, I've stopped doing the FAP for about a week now. I've actually gated off all of these different things, take away the dopamine and drive ultimately, because that's what you're doing. When you're masturbating, you don't want to fucking do anything when you're done. Like all that drive is gone. And you're not going to get that back until tomorrow, where you'll probably want to masturbate again. I've kind of put clamps on these things that take away my dopamine. And it was a couple days ago. I took this, of course, before bed. And the next morning, I felt really driven, but I kind of forgot that I took it. I was kind of like, oh, I'm going to wash my car. I'm going to do all this. It was a Sunday the other day. I was planning my day as I was in the shower, like willfully, like, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And also, I was like thinking about laying back and, you know, oh, I can log in on my Grand Theft Auto 5 account and get my daily spin at the casino and shit. And then I'm like, oh, but maybe I should actually try and do some missions. That in my head, I'm like, okay, something's different here. Something's wrong, because and then I thought about it. I'm like, oh my fucking god, it's the Mucuna Pruriens. It has to be, because
did you just take it once?
Yeah. And I think this is probably something I've been low in for a while, because I'm not a very addictive person. And I think people that do have addictive personalities should stay the fuck away from this stuff unless you can put clamps on everything that spikes your dopamine. And some of you just won't be able to. You'll
That's me,
something you battle with forever. So
YouTube videos and shit.
Yeah, it's really working with what you got. If you're an addict type of person, because you have plenty of dopamine, you just need to force it through specific avenues much better. So yeah, that's basically my first morning and things that went through my head. And looking back, I just laughed, because I'm like, oh my god, like this drive is actually what I would expect if I had more dopamine, in that specific way where it's like, oh, well, I'm not logging on to get like my daily reward on a video game. And it was more like, oh, well, I want to do some missions on that game. And to me, I was like, okay, especially for Grand Theft Auto, because the missions are really stupid, repetitive. And that's where I'm at with gaming altogether, which is kind of good. It's
That's
like,
really good, yeah.
It's like everything's too repetitive. Like, sure, I want the rewards, but for a game, I'm not really going to work for it that much. Not an addiction anymore. I think it's definitely been a good thing for me, because I'm just too much of a chill dude. It's like I don't get on like the high ends of roller coasters, nor do I really go through a bunch of lows.
The highs and the lows, that's a big one. There's a lot of fluctuation and polarity. You have a lot of highs, there's also going to be some lows, and that's an interesting one that I've seen a lot of people, either with social atmospheres and drinking and the current environment that they're in, they always get into these positions where they're super high, and then everything else is like they're depressed at work, and they're depressed when they're not, you know, doing those things. But then they have these exciting things they look forward to that gives them that big buzz, and then the rest of the time they're super lethargic.
to kind of ameliorate that low cycle is to use that dopamine and use that drive towards something that will serve you in the future. And that's probably the best advice anyone could get when it comes to implementing something like dopamine better, or if you're supplementing for it, like in this case. Work for that serotonin with your dopamine. And what that means, of course, is do the drive and what you have now, whatever in this moment will serve you the best, do that. And then in the future, with your serotonin increase, you'll be grateful for whatever fruits are ultimately growing from that action. If you scroll through Instagram for 45 minutes, then probably nothing is good gonna come from it unless you got inspired to like make a post yourself.